Okay, now let's take a look at the golfer face on. We got a good setup here. Got a nice triangle set up. The hands are forward pressed. The shaft is leaning a bit towards the target. Let's see if he returns to that position with the hands even further forward at impact. So watch the takeaway. We notice on the down the line view that the takeaway was too far to the inside. Let's see what it looks like here. You can see he's stuck in, pulling those hands way inside him, behind himself. Now his left wrist is really cupped there. So that's going to open the club face too much at impact. So let's move slowly down to the impact position. Good club lag there. Great leg actions turning into the shot. But you can see right there that the right hand is too far under the golf club. That's going to lift the ball off the ground instead of driving and compressing the golf ball. So we need him at this point here. The club, go back to this point right there. At this point, the club should still be back on this line because we want to create club lag and hit down on the ball. He's actually trying to hit the ball on the way up. Creates a weak shot. Notice how the right hand is still under the golf club and there's no extension. If you look and you see how close he is to his body here, he's that close. Let's go to the backswing. See how wide he is there. He needs to be at least that wide on the follow through. It's way inside. Okay. Okay, now we have a face-on view. We have a nice setup here. The hands are pressed forward a little bit. The right shoulder could be a little bit lower, so we have a little bit more spine tilt away from the target. But not bad. Let's watch the takeaway. Stand lower this time. He's not lifting the club up quite so abruptly. Good wrist hinge. Now what he's done here is he's actually transferred his weight to his front side. At this point now, my guess is all the weight is going to be on that front foot rather than have shifted to the back foot. You can see he's kind of tilted forward instead of backwards. So he gets pretty good hinge, and then see how he comes in under the golf ball here? How he's underneath. The right hand needs to be on top of the golf club at this point. I need to be seeing the club rotating around, the back of the left hand be at the ground, and then the right side needs to be extending down the target line, and it doesn't. The left side just comes up, the right side looks stuck there. See that? Right side is still stuck. That's going to be painful. He's got no extension down the target line at all. If we take a look at where his hands are in the backswing, see he's there. That's where they need to be on the follow-through swing. But look how close they are to the body. Never gets away from the body. All right, let's go ahead and watch this swing in slow motion here. So it's kind of lifting the club up, getting really steep. What that means is that instead of swinging the club back to where it bisects his shoulder, he ends up with it way almost by his head, and he gets real steep coming down to the golf ball that way. Way outside the line, and he has to snap in and pull inside to keep from swinging outside the ball. What we want him to do is, we're going to draw the plane in there. There's the swing plane. We want the club to go back on that swing plane. Let's see what happens here. He's way outside the swing plane, even too far. Notice the hands are even coming way up, lifting the hands almost straight up in the air. Now he's going to have a tough time getting back down. Look how then he's even more over the top, way outside the line. His hands are well above where they were at impact, and then he scoops underneath the ball. Notice that his whole right side is still stuck. If I clear the line out of the way, you can see that the right foot is still stuck on the ground, and he hasn't rotated through the shot. We see a couple of things here at setup that I'd like her to work on. I'd like to see her back a little bit more bent so that the spine is running to 1 o'clock. That's pretty straight up and down right now. And that'll let her arms hang a little more freely down so there's an angle along the club shaft. Right now the arms and the club shaft create almost a straight line, and they should meet at about 142 or 144 degree angle. So let's go ahead and take the club on the way back. Oh, she quit on that one. Got to mess up the hair a little bit here. It's a hot day. She's going to take the club back. Now she's moving her hands down, kind of moving around a little bit. Now see what happens there? She's bending both elbows too much. We don't want the right elbow to bend past 90 degrees, and it's well past 90. That makes it impossible to keep the left arm straight. She's also swayed outside of her toes a little bit on the right foot. Her weight shifted to the outside of her right foot. Now let's watch her come down. Good, strong, athletic move. Very strong golfer. Right on through to a great finish. So we need to keep her weight inside the feet and to try to keep that right arm from bending past 90 degrees at the top of the backswing. Notice how at the setup we have a nice V created, triangle created between the forearms and the shoulders, and the club creates a capital letter Y straight down. The only difference at impact should be that the club now should be on this line back here, so the hands will get to the ball first. Now let's watch what happens on this swing. We're going to clear all that stuff out of the way. Takes the club back pretty nicely, pretty high, and as she comes down, we're going to see that triangle completely break down. Watch this. Still intact. There it goes. Notice now that the left elbow is pulled way out, away from the right elbow. She's going to scoop underneath. She's got no extension down the line at all. Look how close her hands are to her body compared to where they were here on the takeaway, how wide they were on the takeaway. Way out here. That's where they need to be on the follow through also. So we've got to keep the triangle intact and extend our hands down the target line. Okay, on the face-on view, we see a pretty decent setup here. Hands are body-centered, which is just a straight line running from the chin down through the diaphragm. It looks really good. Let's watch the takeaway here. What he's doing on the takeaway is collapsing too much, getting way too much hip turn. We want to create resistance with the lower body. That much knee flexion there is too much. And you notice that the left arm is bending to 90 degrees. That's way too much arm bend. We'd like to see the left arm stay nice and straight. And as he comes back down, he gets a good shift on the weight, straightens his arm out. But you can see right here that he's scooping the ball. At this point, the club should be back here. He should be leading with the hands, creating club lag, instead of scooping at the ball. So we'll work on that in future lessons. Let's see the rotation through to the finish. Great finish. So he's just a little handsy. Now here we have a golfer that we do want the club in the forearm to make a straight line because she's playing a Mo Norman style of single plane swing where all she's going to do is try to stay facing the ball and fold and unfold the right elbow. Keeps her head nice and still. And it's a single plane, simple one lever swing. So she's folding the right arm nicely. She gets to about there, but then she starts moving her head too much and folds the left arm. See how the left arm is folding too? We want the left arm to stay straight. Then she's going to come down to the ball by extending her right hand at the golf ball. But see how her head's leading the swing. And she never gets to really extend her arms back down the line. You can see they're all still bent up. So she never really re-straightens that right elbow. That right elbow needs to be straightened, and the target for the right hand is well past the golf ball. What we're trying to do is to get this golfer to create a swing that kind of goes up and in. Kind of creates a loop like that. Now you'll see that what he does is he starts back, he gets the club nicely going to the outside to about right there, and then he just shifts it back to the inside. See how his hands went over this way? So he never finishes his rotation, and then he turns some more. If he would have waited to do that till he reached the top of his backswing, he'd be in pretty good place. Then he dives down over the top. See how he's diving over the top? So his swing should have been this way and down rather than that way and down. You see the tiny difference? It's actually fairly significant when it comes to ball striking. The last time we saw this golfer, he had developed a pretty good swing, and somehow during the middle of the week it kind of went away on him. So he came back to the clinic to find out what was going on, and let's see if we can spot it. Good setup, good wide stance, good takeaway, very nice. It's coming down with the ball nicely. Watch what happens here. Then he just scoops underneath the ball. See how he scoops under the ball? His right hand is completely under the ball. He gets absolutely no rotation at all of the lower body into the golf swing. And he ends up all stuck and out of balance. So he doesn't even get to finish with the club going around him. Now that isn't how he was doing it 2 weeks ago. And that wasn't how he was doing it by the time he left the session today. He was getting a nice release on the club, hitting the ball a mile. One little move like that, letting that right hand stay under the club, really does have a devastating result to the golf swing. Okay, let's do the down the line view first. Let's draw the club path, club line in here. We want to see the head of the club stay on or above the white line on the backswing. If we take it too far inside, we're going to have a chance of chunking the ball or topping the ball because we're going to be coming in too steep on the downswing. So let's start the club back. Notice, hey, let's do that again. Slow it down a little bit, Dave. Let's get that club right there. You see how far to the inside he is? How the club is actually past his feet. It's almost behind his butt here. The head of the club needs to be on the white line at this point right now. So we're going to move it forward slowly. Now he ends up on the plane right there, but let's see if he stays on it or goes over the top on the way down. And there you see he's way outside the line. See his hands are above the plane. So he's kind of having to twist a little bit. See right there, he's twisting in order to get back to the ball. Pulls his elbows in, tight to his body. If I erase the line, you can see how both elbows are kind of pulled in instead of extending down the line. So we want to make sure he gets a good extension down the golf line. We've been working with this golfer to have a takeaway that's outside the line or keeps the club head running down the target line a little longer. So let's see what happens here if he takes the club away. See how he takes it way to the inside, hardly stays on the line at all, and then gets well in behind him. So he ends up really kind of flat and stuck there. Then he has to come back up, and he never quite gets the wrist to release on the top of the backswing. At this point now, the club should be parallel to the ground, and notice that it's hasn't even hinged to 90 degrees. Then he's going to fire back down in underneath, which is a great thing because now he can create a nice draw out of it. But we really got to get him to take that club a little more down the line. That way he'll generate more power and be a little more relaxed. This is one of the rare face-on views. I really like looking at those. We're trying to find out why his contact has been out on the toe. So let's just go ahead and do a nice slow takeaway. The green line indicates what he's pulling his club way inside that. The hand should stay out over. So what's happening is his hands are going way too far to the outside. Then as he comes down, we're going to watch the hands turn, pull inside. So he's cutting across the ball too much and rotates it over. So we got to get him to swing a little bit more out to the right. The key is to swing to the right as you turn to the left. Okay, first he's going to do a practice swing. Let's do that in slow motion. He's going to go up the green line and down the green line. That's his practice swing on plane. Pretty nicely done. Now let's watch the swing, the real swing. See how he dives out to the outside? So what we want to get him to do is not make this move there. So he's diving, his head and everything went forward. So that puts his hands way out above the line on his real swing, and he cuts across the ball. We see a nice setup here. Let's just, whoops, wrong symbol. Let's clear that out. Bring the line in. Let's draw the swing plane in. As he takes the club back, takes it back just below the swing plane. We'd rather have it above the swing plane. That means his lead arm is getting a little too far out away from his body. He gets to the top pretty nice. Let's see if he drops that club back down on the slot. So he drops it in really nicely there. So that's pretty good. He's dropping it in. Then what happens is, because he doesn't rotate with the swing, his shoulders go real fast and his lower body stays still, he loses a little balance. So he isn't able to rotate around, and his legs don't come together at all. At this point, his left knee should be over where his right knee is. That means he swung too hard. Okay, there's our club angle. Let's go ahead and watch this swing in slow motion. Should stay above the green line on the way back, under the green line on the way down. Above the green line, then over the top. So he doesn't get, at the top, he doesn't bring the club down on that line. What we got to get him to do is bring that club down more from the inside. See how it's getting out away from him, and then he cuts across it, and that's why he's catching everything out on the toe. Okay, we're going to see two things with this golfer. One is that he raises up on his common. Just remember that the backswing is a down-loading motion. It's to get you ready to spring up, not to be an uploading motion. And then he scoops the ball by keeping his right hand under the club through impact. So let's take it to the top. Watch the little lifting action here. That's how he lifts up. And as he comes down, the right hand is going to stay underneath the golf club. You can see it right there, clearly under the golf club. So he's kind of pushing the ball along. It doesn't really get to release it. The club needs to be rotating dramatically closed here. We need to keep the left elbow down. Notice it's flying out behind him. And he never gets rotated up onto his lead side. This is the spine line. Watch on the takeaway. See if he lifts up above the spine line on the takeaway. See, he does. There's a lifting going on right there. It's causing by the right leg straightening up too much. And he has to dive back down. He dives down for a second, then comes right back up out of it. Makes pretty decent contact. But the problem is, it's very hard to be consistent that way because you're not maintaining your axle nice and balanced. Good finish. On the down the line view, we can see that he's got a pretty good setup. The club shaft bisects the middle of the back. Looks really good. Let's watch the takeaway now. A little bit too far to the inside on the takeaway, but not overly too far. And he does drop the club nicely back down inside the slot. But there again, he goes that scooping move, which creates him standing up. He doesn't get any hip drive at all. That's costing him yardage. He's a good enough athlete. Great hand-eye coordination. He hits the ball pretty square and pretty straight, but he's losing a lot of distance. Okay, we drew the power line in. This is where we want to see the lower half of the body past the power line at or before impact. So let's see what happens here. Does a pretty decent takeaway, getting his shoulder down. Right shoulder's moving behind him. See, but he didn't get enough forward momentum. See how he kind of stops right there and doesn't move into the shot, rotates through. Does get the good rotation on the hands, better than he was. But when he's done here, I'd like to see the right hip, right knee, right shoulder, and right ear to be all on that line.